Welcome to the Stoic Philosophy. In today's video, we will explore one of the most powerful lessons from Stoic philosophy. What you see is not always true. Our minds are constantly deceiving us, and the way we perceive the world is shaped by biases, emotions, and assumptions. The Stoic philosophers understood this truth and taught us how to see the world with greater clarity and wisdom. In this video, we'll dive into how Stoic wisdom can guide us in recognizing the illusions we often create in our minds and help us navigate life with a clearer perspective. Stoicism teaches us how to cut through the noise of our emotional responses and judgments, allowing us to live more thoughtfully and make better decisions. Stick around as we uncover how to not just look at the world as it is, but how to perceive it beyond the illusions our minds craft, enabling us to live a life of truth, purpose, and clarity. Chapter 1. Perception is not truth. The limitations of our perception. We live in a world where we rely heavily on our perceptions to understand the events around us. From the moment we wake up, we are bombarded with countless stimuli that our minds must interpret. The problem, however, is that perception is inherently flawed. Our senses are not perfect, and our brains can be easily tricked. What we perceive is often influenced by our past experiences, emotions, biases, and assumptions. Therefore, what we see and experience is not always an accurate representation of the truth. Stoic wisdom on perception. Stoic philosophers such as Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius recognized the imperfection of human perception. They understood that we cannot always trust what our minds tell us. The Stoics believed that we must develop the ability to separate our impressions, our immediate thoughts and reactions, from the objective reality around us. By doing so, we can avoid being ruled by our emotional responses and better align ourselves with the truth. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This statement is a reminder that we are not slaves to our perceptions. Instead, we have the power to choose how we respond to the situations we face. The first step in overcoming the illusions of perception is to recognize that our minds are not always reliable guides to the truth. The role of emotions in perception. One of the biggest factors that distort our perception of reality is our emotions. When we are angry, sad, or anxious, our perception of events is clouded. We might see a neutral situation as hostile or view a challenging task as insurmountable. Our emotions can make us feel like we are victims of circumstances, even when reality may suggest otherwise. The Stoics teach us that emotions, while natural, should not control us. They believe that emotions arise from our judgments and beliefs about the world. For example, if we believe that something unfair has happened to us, we might feel angry or resentful. However, this emotional response is based on our perception of the situation, not the situation itself. By recognizing this, we can begin to challenge our emotional responses and see things more clearly. The power of reflection and mindfulness. To combat the distortions of perception, the Stoics practiced mindfulness and self-reflection. They believed that we must regularly examine our thoughts and beliefs to ensure that we are not deceived by our emotions. This practice of self-awareness allows us to see the world more clearly and to understand how our biases and assumptions shape our perceptions. One Stoic practice that can help with this is the daily reflection. Every evening, Marcus Aurelius would write in his journal, reviewing the events of the day and his reactions to them. He would ask himself questions like, "Did I respond with virtue? Or did I allow my emotions to cloud my judgment?" This habit of self-reflection helps to sharpen our awareness and encourages us to align our perceptions with reality. The importance of objectivity. To truly see the world as it is, the Stoics taught the importance of objectivity. This means looking at situations without the distortion of personal biases, assumptions, or emotions. We must strive to see things as they are, not as we wish them to be or as we fear they might be. Objectivity requires us to detach ourselves from our personal preferences and to focus on what is truly important. One way to practice objectivity is by questioning our initial reactions. When something happens that triggers a strong emotional response, pause and ask yourself, is this reaction based on objective reality, or is it influenced by my emotions? This simple exercise can help us gain a clearer perspective and prevent us from making decisions based on flawed perceptions. The illusion of control. Another key aspect of perception is the illusion of control. We often believe that we can control everything around us, our circumstances, other people's behavior, and even the outcomes of events. This belief can lead to frustration and disappointment when things don't go as planned. The Stoics, however, taught that the only thing we truly control is our own thoughts and actions. By recognizing that we cannot control everything, we can free ourselves from the burden of unrealistic expectations. This idea is captured perfectly in Serenity Prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. The Stoics embraced this mindset, understanding that by focusing on what is within our control, our thoughts, our reactions, our choices, we can live a more peaceful and fulfilling life. Recognizing the difference between facts and judgments. A critical element in overcoming distorted perceptions is understanding the difference between facts and judgments. Facts are objective realities, things that are true regardless of our opinions or emotions. Judgments, on the other hand, are our personal interpretations of those facts. For example, if someone criticizes us, the fact is that they have expressed an opinion. However, our judgment might be that their criticism is unjust or that it reflects badly on us. In reality, their criticism is simply an event, not a reflection of our worth or value. The Stoics emphasize the importance of distinguishing between facts and judgments in order to maintain clarity of thought. By focusing on the facts and letting go of personal judgments, we can approach situations more calmly and rationally, training the mind for clarity. To see the world clearly, we must train our minds. This means regularly practicing mindfulness, self-reflection, and objectivity. The Stoics understood that the mind is like a muscle. If we want to sharpen it, we must exercise it consistently. By doing so, we can develop a clear and focused mind that is less prone to the distortions of perception. One of the most powerful tools for training the mind is meditation. The Stoics often practiced meditation to cultivate inner peace and clarity. Through meditation, we can observe our thoughts without judgment, allowing us to see the world with greater detachment and objectivity. This practice helps us recognize when our perceptions are clouded by emotion or bias, and it allows us to return to a state of calm and clarity, embracing the Stoic path to clarity. In the end, the Stoic path to clarity is about recognizing that perception is not truth. Our minds are constantly interpreting the world around us, but those interpretations are often influenced by emotions, biases, and assumptions. By practicing mindfulness, self-reflection, and objectivity, we can begin to see the world more clearly. We can learn to separate our judgments from reality and approach life with greater wisdom and clarity. As we continue on this Stoic path, we can learn to live more thoughtfully, respond to challenges with grace, and make decisions based on truth, not illusion. The Stoic way of seeing the world encourages us to embrace the present moment with clarity and to recognize that, while we cannot always control our circumstances, we can control how we perceive them. Chapter 2. Focus on what you can control. The illusion of control. One of the greatest sources of stress in modern life is the belief that we can control everything around us. From the people we interact with to the outcomes of events, we often fall into the trap of thinking that we have the power to control every aspect of our lives. This belief, while comforting in some ways, is ultimately an illusion. The Stoics understood this deeply. They recognized that there are countless things in life that lie outside of our control. How others behave, the outcomes of certain situations, the passing of time, and even the natural world itself. Epictetus, one of the most renowned Stoic philosophers, famously said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." This wisdom lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. The key to living a peaceful and fulfilled life is not to focus on controlling the uncontrollable, but to focus on what we can control: our thoughts, our actions, and our responses to the world around us. The power of choice. At the core of Stoicism is the idea that we have the power to control our own reactions and judgments. While we cannot dictate what happens to us, we can choose how to respond. This realization is empowering. It allows us to stop wasting energy on things that are outside of our influence and redirect that energy toward the one thing we truly have control over: ourselves. When we focus on our responses to situations, we take responsibility for our mental and emotional states. We stop blaming external events or other people for how we feel. Instead, we realize that it is our perception of these events that determines our emotional reaction. This shift in perspective is liberating because it frees us from the tyranny of external circumstances. No matter what happens, we can control how we react. Letting go of external expectations. A major part of focusing on what we can control involves letting go of external expectations. In today's world, we are bombarded with societal pressures to be successful, to have the perfect career, to maintain ideal relationships, and to constantly strive for more. These expectations can create a sense of inadequacy and frustration, especially when we feel that we are failing to meet them. The Stoics remind us that the only standards we should live by are our own. We do not need to conform to society's ideals of success or happiness. Instead, we should focus on living a life of virtue, wisdom, and integrity. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, often reflected on the idea that our true purpose is not to meet the expectations of others, but to live in accordance with our values. By focusing on our own actions and growth, rather than external validation, we can find peace and contentment, regardless of how the world views us. Embracing the present moment. Another essential Stoic practice is embracing the present moment. We often waste our energy worrying about the past or the future, regret for what has already happened, or anxiety about what might come. However, the Stoics remind us that the only time we truly control is the present. It is in the present moment that we can choose our actions, reflect on our thoughts, and respond to challenges with clarity. By focusing on what we can control in the here and now, we free ourselves from the burden of past mistakes and future uncertainties. The Stoics practiced mindfulness to stay anchored in the present, knowing that this is where real change happens. Every action, no matter how small, takes place in the present. Every decision, every thought, every interaction can be shaped by our awareness of the present moment. The importance of self-discipline. Focusing on what we can control requires self-discipline. It means resisting the urge to be swept up by the chaos of life, and instead taking deliberate actions that align with our values. This is particularly important when it comes to our emotions and desires. The Stoics believe that it is through discipline and self-control that we achieve true freedom. When we master our desires and impulses, we are no longer slaves to external circumstances or fleeting emotions. Self-discipline allows us to maintain focus on what truly matters. It helps us resist distractions and stay true to our goals. Whether it's sticking to a daily routine, managing our emotions, or pursuing long-term objectives, self-discipline is the key to success. The Stoics viewed self-discipline not as a restrictive force, but as a liberating one. By learning to control our impulses, we unlock the potential to live a life of purpose and meaning. The serenity to accept what we cannot control. While focusing on what we can control is essential, the Stoics also teach us the importance of accepting what we cannot change. In life, there will always be things beyond our control. Other people's actions, global events, the weather, and countless other factors. Fighting against these things is a waste of energy and only leads to frustration. The Stoics teach us to cultivate serenity in the face of the uncontrollable. This concept is beautifully expressed in the Serenity Prayer, which is often associated with Stoic thought. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. The Stoics believed that by recognizing and accepting the limits of our control, we can maintain our peace of mind and focus on what truly matters. The key is not to resist the inevitable, but to adapt and respond with wisdom. Focusing on virtue and character. The ultimate focus of Stoic philosophy is on the cultivation of virtue. For the Stoics, living a virtuous life was the highest goal. Virtue is something we have complete control over. It is the foundation upon which we can build our happiness and fulfillment. By focusing on developing our character, we ensure that we live in accordance with our values and principles, regardless of external circumstances. Virtue involves qualities such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. It means acting with integrity, making thoughtful decisions, and treating others with respect. The Stoics believed that by focusing on virtue, we align ourselves with our true nature and purpose. This, in turn, allows us to live a life of contentment, knowing that we are living in harmony with our principles and our best selves. The freedom found in focusing on what you can control. When we let go of the illusion of control and focus on what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, and our responses, we find true freedom. This freedom comes from within. It is not dependent on external circumstances or the opinions of others. By taking responsibility for our own thoughts and actions, we gain the power to shape our lives in meaningful ways. We no longer feel at the mercy of external events, but instead, we move through life with confidence, knowing that we have control over how we respond. The Stoics believed that this inner freedom is the path to true happiness. By focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we cannot, we free ourselves from the shackles of frustration and disappointment. This practice is not about ignoring the challenges of life, but about learning how to navigate them with wisdom and grace. Chapter 3. The Power of Objectivity. Understanding objectivity in Stoic philosophy. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the idea of objectivity, the ability to view situations, emotions, and people without letting personal bias or external pressures cloud our judgment. To be objective is to see the world as it truly is, not as we wish it to be. The Stoics taught that only by adopting a clear, rational perspective can we navigate the challenges of life with wisdom and grace. In this chapter, we'll explore how cultivating objectivity can transform our thinking, improve our decision-making, and help us live a more peaceful and fulfilling life. The role of emotions in shaping perception. Our emotions, while essential to the human experience, can often distort our perception of reality. Fear, anger, jealousy, and frustration can cloud our judgment and lead us to make decisions driven by impulse rather than reason. For example, when we are angry, we may see a situation as much worse than it truly is, which can lead to rash actions and regret later. The Stoics understood that emotions, though natural, should not dictate our thoughts or behaviors. By practicing objectivity, we can learn to separate our emotions from our rational mind. This doesn't mean suppressing our emotions or pretending they don't exist. Rather, it means acknowledging them, observing them, and understanding how they might be influencing our perception. Only then can we choose to act in alignment with reason, not emotion. This practice of detachment from emotional reactions allows us to make decisions that are thoughtful and measured, rather than impulsive and reactive. Seeing the bigger picture. One of the key elements of objectivity is the ability to see the bigger picture. Often, when we're caught in the midst of a situation, we focus only on the immediate details, the stress of the moment, the words said, the feelings felt. But when we zoom out and view a situation in its entirety, we often realize that the small, negative moments are just fleeting blips in the larger story of our lives. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, frequently reminded himself to look beyond the trivialities of daily life. In his meditations, he wrote, "Don't waste time on what you cannot control, and do not be disturbed by things that are beyond your power." This perspective helps us gain the clarity to see situations as part of a larger narrative, not as isolated incidents. By cultivating objectivity, we learn to rise above the noise of everyday life and focus on what truly matters. Rational thinking and decision-making. Objectivity is a key component of rational thinking. Stoicism encourages us to use reason as our guide in all matters of life. The ability to think rationally allows us to avoid being swayed by momentary emotions or biases. When faced with a decision, we should strive to evaluate all available information, consider the long-term consequences, and make choices that align with our values and principles. In practice, this means taking a step back before reacting, especially in situations of conflict or stress. Instead of immediately reacting based on emotion, we can pause, reflect, and approach the situation from an objective standpoint. This pause allows us to make decisions that are thoughtful and aligned with our highest intentions, rather than decisions made in haste or frustration. The Stoic exercise of daily reflection. One of the most powerful tools in the Stoic arsenal for cultivating objectivity is the practice of daily reflection. The Stoics believed that regular reflection on our thoughts, actions, and emotions helped us maintain clarity and objectivity. By reflecting on the events of the day, we can assess whether we allowed our emotions to cloud our judgment, whether we acted in accordance with our values, and where we can improve. For example, each night we can ask ourselves, did I react to situations with clarity and reason, or did I allow my emotions to take over? Through this daily exercise, we can identify patterns in our thinking and behavior that may be undermining our objectivity. Over time, we learn to approach life with greater detachment and clarity, allowing us to make wiser decisions and live more intentionally. The importance of perspective and objectivity. Another key aspect of objectivity is perspective. The way we view ourselves, others, and the world shapes how we experience life. Stoicism teaches us that our perceptions are often skewed by our personal desires, fears, and biases. By stepping outside of ourselves and adopting a broader perspective, we can begin to see things more clearly. For instance, when faced with a challenging situation, it's easy to fall into a mindset of self-pity or frustration. But by asking ourselves, how would an objective observer view this situation? We can distance ourselves from our emotions and gain a clearer perspective. This shift in perspective helps us evaluate the situation more rationally and respond in a way that aligns with our principles, rather than reacting impulsively or emotionally. The power of detachment. Detachment is often misunderstood as a lack of care or indifference. However, in Stoic philosophy, detachment means freeing ourselves from the grip of excessive attachment to external outcomes. It's about recognizing that we cannot control everything and learning to accept things as they are, rather than how we want them to be. This practice of detachment enhances our objectivity by allowing us to view situations without the distortion of personal attachment or bias. For example, in relationships, we can practice detachment by recognizing that we cannot control how others behave. We can love and care for others, but we must also accept that their actions and choices are beyond our control. By releasing the need to control others and the outcomes of situations, we gain the clarity to act in ways that align with our values, without being clouded by emotional attachments. Objectivity as a path to freedom. Ultimately, the power of objectivity lies in its ability to set us free. By practicing objectivity, we free ourselves from the tyranny of our emotions, desires, and biases. We gain the ability to respond to life's challenges with calmness and clarity, rather than being swept away by the chaos of the moment. In this freedom, we find true peace and wisdom. The Stoics believed that the goal of life is to live in accordance with nature and reason. By cultivating objectivity, we align ourselves with these fundamental principles. We learn to accept life as it is, without unnecessary judgment or resistance. In doing so, we experience greater peace, fulfillment, and contentment. Chapter 4. The Role of Reason. Reason as the foundation of Stoic philosophy. Reason is the cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. For the Stoics, the ability to think rationally and logically was not just a tool for problem-solving, but a pathway to a fulfilled and virtuous life. The Stoics believe that reason is the one thing that sets humans apart from other creatures, enabling us to live in harmony with nature and our deepest values. It allows us to transcend our emotions, navigate challenges, and make decisions that align with the greater good. In this chapter, we'll explore the profound role that reason plays in Stoicism, how it shapes our perceptions, and how cultivating a rational mindset can help us live better, more intentional lives. Reason, according to the Stoics, is not just about being logical in our thinking. It is about using that logic to understand ourselves and the world around us. By doing so, we can rise above the chaos of life and act with purpose and clarity. Reason, the pathway to virtue. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies the idea that living virtuously is the ultimate goal of life. Virtue, according to the Stoics, is living in accordance with reason, which means acting with wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. These are not arbitrary traits, but essential qualities that arise from the use of reason. By aligning our actions with reason, we develop virtue. For instance, wisdom allows us to make informed decisions. Justice ensures that we treat others fairly. Courage enables us to face challenges head-on, and moderation keeps us from indulging in excess. Reason guides us in the pursuit of these virtues, helping us stay true to our highest ideals, even when life presents obstacles or temptations. The Stoic ideal of a virtuous life is not about adhering to a set of rules, but about using reason to make choices that reflect our best selves. The rational mind is a tool for self-mastery. One of the key principles of Stoicism is self-mastery. To live a fulfilled life, we must gain control over our impulses and desires. Reason plays an essential role in this process by providing us with the ability to pause and think before reacting. When we are confronted with a challenge or a temptation, our immediate emotional response may be driven by fear, desire, or anger. However, through the application of reason, we can pause, reflect, and choose a course of action that aligns with our values. In moments of difficulty, reason allows us to step outside of our emotional reactions and view the situation objectively. Instead of acting impulsively, we can take a step back and ask ourselves, what is the most rational course of action? What aligns with my principles and long-term goals? This ability to exercise reason in the face of adversity is what leads to true self-mastery. By consistently applying reason, we cultivate the discipline needed to make wise decisions and act in ways that align with our values. Reason is a guide in the face of adversity. Life is filled with challenges, and how we respond to adversity shapes our experiences. The Stoics believed that while we cannot control the external circumstances of our lives, we can control how we respond to them. Reason, they argued, is the tool that allows us to navigate adversity with strength and clarity. When faced with hardship, our first reaction may be to succumb to despair, anger, or frustration. However, reason enables us to take a step back and evaluate the situation from a more rational perspective. Instead of being overwhelmed by emotions, we can ask ourselves, what is in my control here? What can I learn from this experience? How can I respond in a way that reflects my values? By using reason to guide our responses, we can transform adversity into an opportunity for growth. Instead of being a victim of our circumstances, we become active participants in shaping our lives. We learn to see challenges not as threats, but as chances to develop resilience, courage, and wisdom, reason, and the control of our desires. One of the central teachings of Stoicism is the importance of mastering our desires. The Stoics believe that desire, when unchecked, leads to dissatisfaction, frustration, and suffering. By using reason, we can gain control over our desires and focus on what truly matters. This doesn't mean suppressing our desires or denying ourselves pleasure, but rather recognizing the difference between what we truly need and what we merely want. Reason helps us evaluate our desires in a rational manner. For example, we might desire wealth, success, or material possessions, but reason teaches us to ask, do these things truly bring lasting happiness, or do they merely provide temporary pleasure? By reflecting on the nature of our desires, we can make more informed choices about what we pursue. Reason encourages us to prioritize what is essential, such as meaningful relationships, personal growth, and contributing to the well-being of others, over fleeting pleasures that do not contribute to our long-term happiness. Reason and the acceptance of fate. A fundamental teaching of Stoicism is the acceptance of things beyond our control. The Stoics believed that while we cannot control the events that happen to us, we can control how we respond to them. Reason plays a central role in this practice of acceptance. When we encounter something beyond our control, reason helps us maintain perspective and avoid unnecessary suffering. Instead of fighting against the inevitable, we can use reason to accept what is, without resistance. For instance, if we lose a job, We can use reason to recognize that while we cannot change the fact of the loss, we can control how we respond. We can choose to learn from the experience, seek new opportunities, and continue moving forward with a positive mindset. Reason helps us understand that resistance to fate only causes pain, while acceptance brings peace and resilience. The daily practice of reason. For the Stoics, reason was not an abstract concept, but a daily practice. It wasn't enough to simply believe in the importance of reason. We must actively apply it in our daily lives. The Stoics encourage daily reflection, where we take time to assess our thoughts, actions, and decisions. Through this practice, we cultivate the habit of reason and make it a central part of our lives. By reflecting on our day, we can ask ourselves questions like, did I act in accordance with reason today? Did I allow my emotions to control me? How can I apply reason more effectively in the future? This daily practice of self-reflection helps us strengthen our ability to think rationally and act in ways that align with our values and goals. Reason as the path to true freedom. Ultimately, the use of reason is the path to true freedom. By mastering our thoughts, actions, and desires, we free ourselves from the tyranny of emotions, impulses, and external circumstances. Reason allows us to act in alignment with our highest principles, rather than being driven by momentary desires or fleeting emotions. This freedom is not about escaping the challenges of life, but about facing them with clarity, wisdom, and composure. By practicing reason, we gain the ability to navigate life's ups and downs with equanimity, making decisions that lead to a life of virtue, fulfillment, and peace. Chapter 5. Clarity through Stoic Practices. The power of reflection. One of the most powerful tools for achieving clarity in life is the Stoic practice of daily reflection. This practice involves taking time each day to examine your actions, thoughts, and emotions. By doing so, you are better able to understand the choices you make and the underlying motivations behind them. This form of self-inquiry helps eliminate the noise of external distractions and allows you to hone in on what truly matters. Through reflection, you gain the ability to assess your life with objectivity and purpose, creating a mental space for clarity and peace. The Stoics, including Marcus Aurelius, knew that clarity wasn't something that could be forced, but had to be cultivated through regular introspection. Journaling, a Stoic tool for mental clarity. Another practice that the Stoics use to achieve mental clarity is journaling. The act of writing down your thoughts is not only a therapeutic outlet, but a method of organizing your mind. Marcus Aurelius famously kept a journal in which he reflected on his actions and thoughts. This act of putting thoughts on paper allows you to sort through them, gain perspective, and distance yourself from the emotional charge they may carry. By writing, you can slow down your thinking, focusing on the present moment and shedding any misconceptions. Journaling helps bring clarity by grounding your mind and enabling you to see your thoughts as separate from your identity. The words you write become a record of your growth, a roadmap for improving yourself. Mindfulness, staying present in the moment. Mindfulness, a practice closely aligned with Stoicism, is essential for clearing mental clutter and fostering clarity. It is the practice of staying present and fully engaged in whatever you are doing. This allows you to become aware of your thoughts without becoming attached to them. By practicing mindfulness, you can detach from judgments and habitual reactions that cloud your perception. You become more attuned to the present moment, and in this state, you begin to experience clarity about the choices you make, the emotions you feel, and the intentions behind your actions. Stoics, like Epictetus, emphasize that while you cannot control the world around you, you can control how you respond to it. Practicing mindfulness helps you remain focused on your own responses, leading to clarity and better decision-making. The dichotomy of control, knowing what you can and cannot control. A cornerstone of Stoic practice is understanding and accepting the dichotomy of control. This is the distinction between what is within your control and what is not. Many of our struggles in life arise from the tendency to focus on things we cannot control, such as the actions of others, external events, or outcomes. However, the Stoics taught that we must focus only on what we can control: our thoughts, our attitudes, and our actions. By practicing this Stoic principle, we clear away the mental fog that comes from worrying about the uncontrollable. As a result, we are able to see more clearly and make decisions that are rooted in our own values and intentions, rather than external circumstances. This clarity is liberating, allowing you to live in accordance with your true purpose. Living with purpose, aligning your actions with your values. Clarity is not just about mental focus, it is also about purpose. The Stoics believed that a clear life is one that is aligned with reason and virtue. Each day, you are presented with countless choices. But how do you know which ones are truly worth pursuing? By aligning your actions with your values, you bring clarity to your decisions. When your actions reflect your highest principles, you no longer need to second-guess your choices. The Stoics believed that living with purpose was essential for mental clarity because it gave you direction. It's easy to be distracted by the many demands of life, but when you are clear about your purpose, you can more easily discern what is worth your time and energy. The role of negative visualization. Another practice that brings clarity is negative visualization. While it may sound counterintuitive, imagining the worst-case scenarios can help clear the fog of uncertainty. By contemplating the possibility of loss or hardship, you can gain perspective on what truly matters. It allows you to appreciate the present moment and focus on what is truly important. Marcus Aurelius often practiced this technique to remind himself of the transient nature of life. By embracing the potential for loss, you are less likely to be swayed by fleeting desires or emotional upheaval. This clarity of focus helps you live a more meaningful and purposeful life, grounded in reality rather than wishful thinking. Silence and solitude, creating space for clarity. In our fast-paced, always connected world, silence and solitude are increasingly rare. Yet, these are the very conditions under which clarity can flourish. The Stoics understood that true wisdom and mental clarity often arise in moments of silence and solitude. By stepping away from the noise of the world, you create the mental space necessary for deep thinking. In solitude, you can reflect on your actions, reevaluate your goals, and reconnect with your inner self. Silence allows you to hear your own thoughts clearly, without the distraction of external opinions or pressures. It is in these moments of stillness that the mind is able to process information and come to clear, reasoned conclusions. Daily Stoic practices for clarity. There are several daily practices that the Stoics incorporated into their lives to help maintain clarity. One of the simplest but most powerful is the practice of reviewing your day at the end of each evening. This ritual involves reflecting on what you did well and where you could have improved. It allows you to take stock of your actions, adjust your behavior, and make clearer choices in the future. Another important practice is gratitude. By focusing on what you are grateful for, you shift your attention away from negative thoughts and open yourself up to clarity. Gratitude clears the mental fog and allows you to see the positive aspects of your life more clearly. Clarity in relationships, setting boundaries and managing expectations. In relationships, clarity is equally important. The Stoics emphasize the need to manage expectations and set boundaries with others. When you are clear about what you expect from a relationship, as well as what you are willing to give, you eliminate unnecessary conflict and emotional turbulence. By setting clear boundaries, you protect your peace of mind and ensure that your relationships are rooted in mutual respect and understanding. Clarity in relationships also involves recognizing the things you cannot control, such as the actions or feelings of others, and focusing only on your own responses. This reduces anxiety and helps you maintain emotional stability. The clarity of a virtuous life. The Stoics believed that living a virtuous life is the ultimate form of clarity. When you act with virtue, you are guided by wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. These guiding principles clear the mental clutter and direct your actions toward the good. Virtue provides clarity in every situation, helping you to discern the right course of action. By striving to live in alignment with these virtues, you naturally clear away distractions and become more attuned to your true purpose. A virtuous life is a life of clarity because it is in accordance with nature and reason. Conclusion: the clarity of the Stoic path. The Stoic path to clarity is not an easy one, but it is a rewarding one. It requires dedication to daily practices like reflection, journaling, mindfulness, and focusing on what you can control. By embracing these practices, you gain the clarity needed to navigate life's challenges with grace and purpose. The Stoic way encourages you to see the world clearly, to understand what you can and cannot control, and to live in alignment with your highest values. This clarity is not just a mental exercise. It is a way of living with intention and purpose. When you live with clarity, you are better equipped to make decisions, cultivate resilience, and find contentment. This is the Stoic path, and it leads to a life of wisdom and fulfillment. Your path to clarity begins now. As we wrap up today's exploration into Stoic wisdom, remember that clarity isn't something you stumble upon by accident. It's a practice, a deliberate, ongoing effort to see the world and yourself as they truly are. By embracing the Stoic teachings of perception, control, and reason, you'll find the mental clarity you need to navigate life's complexities with purpose and composure. Each practice, whether it's reflection, journaling, or mindfulness, brings you one step closer to mastering your mind and aligning your actions with your true values. If this journey towards clarity resonates with you, be sure to subscribe to the Stoic Philosophy. By subscribing, you'll never miss an opportunity to dive deeper into Stoic wisdom and continue refining the way you approach life's challenges. Stay tuned for more content that empowers you to think sharper, live wiser, and act stronger. Thank you for watching. Remember, clarity is not just a goal, it's the path itself. And your path to clarity starts now.